Most of our interactions with other people are not self to self, but parts to parts. So a part of me gets triggered by what somebody has said or done, and I react from a part, and then the other person does not receive it well because their part got triggered, and so we end up in a vicious cycle between individuals, and our relationships can become toxic because each one of us has parts that's trying to protect them, but they're not taking into account a more uh, compassionate, collaborative approach between us. And so, what we try to do is we try to act from a place where the self is in control, and also we invite other people to to bring their self in control as well. When we trigger other people's parts, that's what we end up interacting with. We end up interacting with their parts. Sometimes we can offer assurances to their parts because we understand them, and we use language and an approach that is more inviting to collaboration rather than being confrontational, rather than escaping, resorting to flight because we don't want to have a confrontation. But this ends up when we escape a confrontation, when we resort to people pleasing, we tend not to address the issues that need to be addressed for ourselves and for the other people we interact with. Appeasing parts or trying to go along with what the parts want is not a healthy behavior. It's not a healthy relationship. So we want to connect with the confidence of ourself, and we show up in confidence. We show up with compassion, and then we connect to other people, self to self or self to parts. And then once that a relationship, once that approach is healthy, the other person's self is encouraged to take the lead, to take back control from the parts. But remember, other people's parts are trying to protect them. So having that understanding and offering assurance that you're not a threat, you're not um, the other person's well-being is your consideration, you're willing to be respectful of other people's parts, you realize just how quickly other people can become responsive to your invitations, and they're able to collaborate instead of resort to conflict and toxic behavior. Uh, I would also add, you're technically not responsible to how other people behave, but you can play a positive role in persuading them to behave and act in more responsible ways. So just because other people's parts are not your responsibility, just because other people's thoughts, feelings, and behaviors are not your responsibility, that does not mean that you can't play a positive role in inviting them, encouraging them to become more responsible, more mature, calmer, more collaborative, and so on. We can have that positive effect on other people, and I would encourage you to actually play that role in other people's lives. This does not mean that uh, you simply take on other people's emotional work as your responsibility. But if you can play a positive role in the lives of other people, why not? Why should we restrict ourselves from having that positive contribution in other people's lives? Because it will serve them and us better by having people who are more connected to their self and who are more able to work with their parts. So, uh, for you to understand the dynamics between individuals, you have to think of it as wanting a, a connection or an interaction, self to self. In most cases, it begins with parts to parts. A part gets triggered and triggers. and then the other person's parts get triggered, and then they trigger, and so on. That vicious cycle continues. But we want to self, or to invite the parts to connect with the self, or to give back control to the self, in order to have self to self interaction. I hope that makes sense, and I'll see you in the next video.